All right, so let's just jump right back in. This is episode 3 of Within the Glasswood Forest. And wow, we've got so many things to talk about today. So I guess first of all, we've been tirelessly working on our books, and we've got a lot going on. I'll be honest with you, I've kind of was hoping to have progressed a little bit more over the last couple of weeks with some of the writing that I've been working on, but we've got a lot of things going on right now, and pretty much everybody in the house came down with the flu, so that kind of made us hit the brakes on progress, which is one of those things where, you know, especially me, I think most people are this way as well, where I have a strict schedule that I like to adhere to, and I do feel that if one little piece falls off, I'm very quick to scramble, try to put the pieces back together, realign it to stick to the schedule that I had originally set forth. And but sometimes I think we just have to look back and examine the situation and really take into reality and say, okay, this didn't work out this way. Now there's a new path, and what does that new path to the finish line look like? And set some new objectives and some new milestones to reassess the situation, because ultimately what matters is that we finish what we're doing, not so much on all the steps in between, on if we hit every single deadline versus, you know, the time it took to do it. I fixate because I have multiple things going on in our lives, and there's certain objectives I do in our career where it is very time-based, and there's scheduled deadlines, and I have to adhere to it and meet these deadlines, and we set objectives to be able to ensure that we succeed. So I'm already kind of always just focused in that same mindset, always thinking in that same objective, and that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to think that way, except for situations when I let it start to take away the joy of what we're doing, because what we're doing at Glasswood, it's so special, and it is a joy to be able to write books. I mean, honestly, I just think about it this way: we are literally getting to do something that is entertainment, and being able to infuse messages for children to be able to learn things along the way. That's powerful, and it's fun, and I don't want to lose sight of that. I don't want us to, along the way, lose sight of why we're doing it for the sake of just to do it, to be able to say, hey, the end on book 1, the end on book 2, but then everything that we put into it doesn't have that same weight behind it. I have to constantly ground myself and remind myself that, hey, we're not doing this for just the sake of getting it done. We're doing it because it matters, because we enjoy doing it, and because it's going to bring so much, you know, joy and happiness, and we hope lessons to learn to the people that are going to be able to read the material and read our books and be able to be a part of the Glasswood Forest, you know, world that we're creating. We have so much in the works, and we can't wait to share it with everybody. But these things take time. They take a lot of time, and you know, that's why we're doing these podcast style videos, because we want people to be able to have an update on what exactly we've been doing. So within one of the books I've been working on the most, which I've kind of alluded to it a few times, it's the how can I say this without giving too much away, because there's so much that I want to be able to say, but I just can't just yet. So if you've been to our website, you've seen the Roaring Adventures, and we've got a lot going on with that story. That's not the official title of the book. We've got a few things that we're putting out there for the people that are on our email list. We're going to be sending out some titles just to kind of bounce some ideas off of our listeners, just to kind of get an idea of what you know people want to be able to see, what people think sounds good. But within that story, you know, it's coming together. We've written, you know, thousands of words. I've been working tirelessly on that one. I write as much as I can when I can, but I'm having so much fun doing it. you know, a lot of people call it like the mind's eye or the third eye. I didn't even know that was a thing. I just thought that was something that I experienced, you know, as a child growing up. And then I realized later in life that this is something that's very common amongst a lot of people. And for those of you who know exactly what I'm talking about, congratulations on having one of the, you know, coolest abilities probably known to man, which is the ability to just read something and get so immersed into it within a matter of seconds, but you get so immersed into it that it's legitimately like having a film right in behind your eyes. It's just playing, so much so that sometimes I find myself looking back and saying, whoa, what did I just read? I felt like I wasn't even reading. I was just watching a movie play. My imagination runs rampant whenever I'm in that mindset. So with the writing, it's very much the same for me. I don't know how it is for other writers out there, but for me, I'll sit down in front of the computer, I'll start typing something out, working on a passage or a chapter, and then I'm typing like a Mad Hatter. I don't know if you've ever watched The Muppets, but I think about that all the time in my head. My hands are just slapping on the keyboard and we're just going to town. I'm writing out as much as I can, and I'm not even really thinking about the words that I'm writing because my mind is racing faster than my hands can even type the words out. So it ends up playing like a movie for me. I'm having so much fun being able to write this story because everything that I envision from any movie that I've ever watched, or any story that I've ever watched or read for that matter, and you think to yourself like, oh, wouldn't it be so cool if they could just do this? It's like, well, hey, guess what? I have the ability to do that, and that's exactly what I get to do. For other authors out there that is experiencing that has the thrill, reach out to us. Go to our website, check us out. We have a contact page. We'd love to be able to network with you, to be able to see what you have that you're working on, because we're growing Glasswood. We've already communicated. We've been in contact with. So we've been in communication with a few different authors already, and we've had some fantastic conversations. We've set up some virtual meetings, and they went really well. So we have a few authors that we've already started working with that have some beautiful books that they've either already published or they're currently working on. And it's been such a pleasure to be able to communicate with them, to be able to work with them, to be able to, you know, pick their brains and see, you know, what inspired them to become an author, what inspired them to tell the story that they've written down, and to be able to see how much they just truly are captivated and enjoy doing what they're doing. It's one of those things where if you surround yourself with people that are like-minded, not necessarily people just like you, but people that are like-minded in the sense that, hey, they're striving for success, or maybe they already have reached that pinnacle of success. But if you surround yourself with people like that, it leaches off of them. It leaches off of you, hopefully. It's kind of like, you know, the fig tree with fruit on it. What kind of fruit do you bear, so to speak? If you're a very positive person, you're very self-motivated, you're very driven, you get around people and that bleeds off. It's like that energy just pours out of you, and it's either going to push some people away that maybe that's not the type of energy they want. Maybe they're just looking to coast on by. But for the people that are also driven, for those people that are actually out there looking to better themselves, to better their families, to create something that is truly outstanding for them in their lives and for the people around them, it's one of those things where they magnetize to you, or you magnetize to them for that matter. And I work with so many fantastic people that are so self-motivated. You can't help but to want to be around them. You can't help but to want to be in conversation with them, because everything that you're going to talk about it's not just me, I for that matter, but it's here's what we've been working on, here's what we've got in the works, and this is why it's important. This is how you get from A to Z, and it's just so much positive energy that when you go back to the drawing board on the thing that you're passionate about, the thing that you've been working tirelessly at, you're just filled with this passion to really dive into it head first, to pick, some people, maybe they wrote 1,000 words or 10,000 words on a book that they've been trying to finish over the last year or so. it only takes one conversation with the right person for you to just go back and say, man, I have to keep writing again. I just had a conversation with you know who, and internally you're thinking like, there's no way I can sit by for another day and not finish this story. That's what we want. That's the type of energy we want at Glasswood. We want to be surrounded by just the elite of the elite. We want people who are constantly driven, who are always passionate. And that's not to say you're going to have a bad day, that you're not going to have, some sort of writer's block mentality where you just can't figure out a way to get another word on the page. We're all human. We're all human, and we're all susceptible to these things. There's been plenty of times throughout the course of this book where, matter of fact, I'll tell you this, I literally restarted the book already. So, and I'll tell you why. It was because I had a character that I was developing for the story, and I should have just listened to my wife from the beginning, but I didn't. And I went into it head first with a story that I thought was beautiful, but it didn't have something that I've spoken about in previous episodes on this podcast, which is I didn't have the soul knitted to it. Not from the beginning. And maybe I could have developed it, maybe I could have brought it in, but it just wasn't there from the beginning. And I felt like the character was a little too young for that matter as well. That was another thing that I had to work on. And it's still a very young child that we're writing about in this story. Maybe. There's a lot of characters going on, so I'm not going to give it all the way yet. But I will say, that I started that book over with the mindset of, I need to knit the soul into this from the start. I want people to be gravitated to the story as, hey, this resonates with me, or maybe you know someone that is in this type of situation, and it's going to be a thrilling adventure. Absolutely, I want people's socks to get blown off. I want them to be so absolutely amazed that they cannot wait to buy the next book that we're writing. But it will contain things that are valuable lessons for children. And if the parent or the teacher, whoever's going to be reading these books, if you pick up this book and you read it to your kid, or maybe you just want to read it by yourself, I still like reading children's books. I want them to be able to feel an attachment to it as well. I listen to so many audiobooks. I have a really good friend of mine. We had literally, I don't even know how we ended up doing it, but we just hand wrote a list of audiobooks. And if he's listening, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. It was like, Jonathan, you need to read every single one of these books on this list, start to finish. And when you get to the bottom of it, let me know so we can go back and we can talk about every one of these. And so I was like, hey, I've got a bunch of books already in the back catalog that I haven't even got the chance to listen to myself, that was already on my own list. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and start on this list. There's some pretty good books on here. And I'm telling you, some of them are, young adults. Some of them are more on the adult side. And if you're an R.C. Bray narrator fan, my goodness, do we have a lot we could talk about. I went down the rabbit hole listening to everything R.C. Bray narrated, and it was primarily because he is so fantastic at being able to develop characters. Every one of his characters that he gives a voice to is so unique that you are instantly, you forget that he's even reading the book anymore. It's like being in a high-end production play where there's multiple cast members. He's phenomenal. I cannot recommend listening to anything that R.C. Bray narrates enough. So anyways, back to what I was talking about. We started going down this list, and I remember I finished several of the books on the list, and I was like, man, I went back to my list and started reading some of the books I had on that I was still waiting to finish. And it was one of those phone calls where, we haven't talked in quite a while. You pick up the phone and you're like, hey man, did you even finish any of those books we talked about? It's like, listen, I've already rocketed past the first 15 on this list. And we just, there's so much positive energy in to be able to talk about what's written between pages. It's so motivating where something written down can just spark a conversation. And there's been plenty of times where I'm reading a book that I know someone that is also that also enjoys that same type of writing. I'll be reading something and they'll crack a joke, or there'll be a part of the story that I'm just laughing to myself while I'm driving to the office. I'm just laughing and I'm like, I gotta call such and such and I gotta tell them to read this book. And I just want to go out and just tell them everything about it right then and there. But I don't want to ruin and spoil the moment for them as well, because I think there's just a certain magic to hearing it yourself for the very first time. And I mean, but that's audiobooks. We're going to be doing audiobooks as well. So we already have tons of books in the works right now. We've written a few already. They're just on hold right now because we are also having to develop all the artwork for them. So if there's any artists out there who are who's looking to be part of something larger than just doing self-published artwork, reach out to us also. Go check out our webpage, send us an email. We definitely would be interested in talking to you, especially if you're from the Texas area. We want to work with some local Texas people. We're right here in the heart of the Houston area, just north of Houston. So, you know, there's air and opportunity for the amount of people around here that are that can master their craft and be a part of a growing family-owned business. So if you're out there and you've got some fantastic artwork and you're interested and you want to send us some of your work, we're definitely interested in seeing what you have going on. For children's picture books or young adult to middle grade, just the book covers for some of our chapter books. Show us what you got. Send it to the website. We'll definitely check it out. We've already seen a lot of fantastic artwork out there. We're doing our own in-house right now as well. But it's one of those things where, this business is growing, and I'm not a one-man army. I don't write by myself anyways. My wife does. She writes as well under the pen names that we share, which is the Eden J. Spark for our chapter books and M. Rose for our picture books. And she's been doing a fantastic job writing some. These books are so beautiful. I cannot wait for people to be able to read these books, whether it's the dinosaur books or it's the, whether it's about elves. We've got this, we've got the Tiny Tale series that's going to kind of encapsulate all of these individually written children's picture books, and they take a lot of time. I mean, you're looking at 30, 36 pages, somewhere in that neck of the woods. I think the industry average is 32 pages, but that's a lot of artwork. That is a ton of artwork. So I say this, if you're out there and you're working as an illustrator, or if you're just starting out and you don't think that you've got what it takes, but you've always been passionate about drawing, hey, reach out to us. Show us what you got. I don't know how long we've been doing this, several months now, but we've had a story living within us for the better part of 10 or 15 years, and we're just now starting to write. So it's not about being a professional today. This isn't a situation where you're applying for a job and it's like, oh, by the way, we're looking for an entry-level position, but we need 10 years of experience. That's not what we're looking for. I have a cousin who I remember as a child, I would just be looking over his shoulder, captivated by the fan art that he would be drawing, whether it was Dragon Ball Z, whether it was Naruto. It doesn't matter what it was. He could draw freehand, sitting in a classroom with just a blank sheet of paper, and by the end of the class, even though he should have been paying attention to English because we kept getting in trouble, but I will say by the end of that class, he would walk out of there with a fully fledged rendition of Goku. It could be Android 17. I mean, honestly, my favorite, it would have been Future Trunks, but he would draw all of these characters in so much fantastic detail that it was like, hey man, it's like you work for this. It's like these are your characters. And he was a teenager, so it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Reach out to us. Send us an email. Show us what you got going on, because I guarantee you, we'd like to hear from you. I guarantee you that. I don't claim to know everything, but what I will say is I do want somebody specialized pretty much, I would like to have somebody specialized for each category that we're writing in, whether that's sci-fi, whether that's thriller, whether it's a quirky comedy style book. We want somebody that's well-rounded as well, but somebody that understands that genre of what we're writing. So if you're out there and you're looking to start that editing career, reach out to us as well. Shoot us an email. We can send you some of our material, let you take a stab at it and see what you think. We're gonna do this right, because it really matters whenever someone picks up a book published by Glasswood Storyworks. We want them to know what they're getting. Maybe they're not going to know that because it's their first book, and I understand that. There is reality here, but as they pick up book 2, book 3, et cetera, I want them to know that it was well put together. These stories are going to be done right. We've got a vision. And, I'm not married to any of my ideas. I say that a lot in business because it's very true. I cannot be stuck in one way expecting that, hey, this is the right way to do it and I'm going to die on a hill for this. No. That's not who I am. It's not who I can allow myself to be. Somebody else out there might have, a much better idea that, or a suggestion to tweak something that I've been struggling with, thinking I'm doing it right. And I have to always, keep the mindset that there could be a better way. There could be a right way, and the way that I'm doing it currently could be wrong. I want to be able to lean on other people to grow this business the right way, because like I said earlier, I'm not an army of one. We get ideas from each other all the time. Sarah and I, we go on long walks. We try to remain active as much as possible, considering how much time we spend sitting down writing already, for that matter. But, during the week, we might go on, 3 or 6 mile walks. On the weekends, we'll probably do, another long hike, probably 6 miles or so on Saturdays. That's our long one. But we go out on these long walks and we just talk about anything and everything. Just whatever's going on, just so we can stay connected. That's what we like to do. But a lot of times we'll be mid-sentence talking about something so off in left field, and an idea will come into our heads and we'll be like, hey, hold on. But we'll pull out our phones and we'll record just what we were talking about right there in that moment. Because there's something about, I know that I'm this way, so I assume that most people are. I can have a fantastic idea that'll come into my mind. If I don't write it down, I'm telling you, it's like trying to hold water in your hands. The longer you hold it, the more you lose. I will lose the idea. I will lose the thought. And if there's one person who's, more frustrated about it than me, it's probably my wife, because I like to talk and I talk a lot, and she'll have a fantastic idea. And sometimes I'm too ignorant to just stop to get my, I get my thoughts out, and then she'll be like, I lost the idea. And that's it. You missed it. And that is one of the most frustrating things as a creative, for that matter, is I had this great idea, but I don't remember what it was. But I'm telling you, this thing was going to be gold. It was, and for me, it's write it down instantly. Get it down somehow. Pull out your phone, record it, write it down on a piece of paper. But whatever you got to do, write it down, because we have so many fresh ideas just from going out and walking. And there's something about just being out there doing it, just exercising in general. It's like as if, because we have so much going on in life, it's like a part of the brain can just finally shut down for just a second. And what ends up happening, for me at least, is I just get flooded with thoughts of all the things I wasn't thinking about. And that's not how it always is. I will say this, sometimes I'm so focused on, numbers on a spreadsheet, running financials, whether it's, ensuring profitability for whatever we got going on, with the other side of this thing, an idea will just come, and it will be, it's almost like somebody just knocked on the door. Like, you didn't expect it. You didn't know it was going to happen, and you're looking around like, how did this thought even come to my head? I wasn't even thinking about this. Write it down regardless. I've lost probably more great ideas than I've written down at this point, but I'm getting better at it. It's something I've been working at. I probably have 50 or 60 random 20, 30-second voice recordings on my phone, because something came into my head and I'm like, oh, I got this fantastic idea for this new book, and I'll record it. And I will say, it's pretty enticing to not want to just dive straight into some of these new ideas. I was listening to a podcast this week, and if you haven't checked out the Joanna Penn, the Creative Penn podcast, and you are an author, I urge you, check it out. By no means am I an affiliate of hers, but I do think that a lot of what they talk about on that show resonates with what we have going on in our business and our careers. So it's really inspiring to see what they're doing and some of the guests that they bring onto the show. But they were discussing the concept of moving from a book that is, that you're currently struggling on, and this is exactly where I find myself a lot of times. And it's not just, I'll say this, it's not just in writing books. This is outside of that. This is in life too. There's a lot of things that you're working on that are really hard, and they're a struggle. And all of a sudden, you'll either see or hear or have an idea about something that is new, that seems so much easier, and it's enticing to say, oh, I need to stop doing this that I'm having a hard time on, and go start doing that other thing, because it's definitely going to be easy and it's going to make life so much better for me, and I'm going to be able to run through this new venture, and it'll be so much more of a smash success for us. But that's not reality. And I will say this is something that I have this business mindset. I don't want to be, pretty good at a bunch of things. I do want us to master some things. I do want us to become a master of the whatever the craft is, of the thing that we are working on. And at one time, that was working on, the business career. At one time, that's working on, the art side of this thing, and learning to master photo editing and video editing, whether that's working on, understanding how to be a great storyteller, and to be able to, bring in more than just sound, for that matter, because I feel like everything is, sight in a book. So how do you incorporate sound and smell and touch and emotions into a story? That way people understand that there's more going on inside the book than just what they can visually see, because these are, 90% of everything that's happening around you is through vision. You take in all this information, you can get bogged down. To be able to take a step back and say, no, I need to finish this. I need to continue to work on this. These other ideas, great as they may be, they will still be there. You wrote it down. You've got a mental note, wherever it is, whether it's on paper, you did a digital recording, you wrote it down on your iPad, but you have that. You can always circle back to it. I don't want to find myself, and I know a lot of other people do this. If you think about it, really, really examine yourself. You don't want to find yourself looking back and saying, oh, I've got 10 different projects going on that are all halfway complete, without any actual success or completion. That's not where you want to find yourself. I don't want to be there. I don't want you to be there. But to be able to start on something, see it through, complete it, get it out so that other people can see it, or if it's just something that you're working on for self-fulfillment, it could be a Lego set, for that matter. I've got plenty of them in here. Don't start something and not finish it. And I say that as somebody who has to be constantly reminded to get it done. This is what you're working on, you got to get it done. My wife is a constant reminder to me that, hey, you said you were gonna, work on that book this week, and I noticed that you didn't do this much of it, and you're like, yeah, hey, you know what? You're right. I got to get back in there and keep working on it. It reminds me. We just watched a show. We just watched a movie recently with the family. If you haven't seen it, you definitely are missing out. Meet the Robinsons. It's one of my wife's favorite movies, but the primary theme, of that entire movie is just keep moving forward. Just keep moving forward. You don't have to say anything else. It's one of those things where, what are you going to do? It's hard. You just got to keep going. I felt like I hit a brick wall. You have to bust through. Find a way to bust through and keep moving forward. I want to be able to think that way all the time. And I love being able to watch a movie with my kids and learn a lesson along the way. If you haven't watched it, also, I could, recommend television shows and movies all day on this podcast if I wanted to. But if you haven't watched it, you should check out Young Sheldon. That show, there were so many instances throughout that little television show that I didn't watch for the longest time. I didn't actually sit down and watch it until it was but it had ended. But there's a few lessons in there, and I remember one where, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher this because my memory's not the best on it, but I do remember it was Sheldon was having the conversation. I believe with it was a rabbi, it definitely wasn't the pastor of his community, but I think it was a rabbi, and he was just having a conversation with him, and he was comparing himself to someone else. An example, I think it was, hey, I'm not, I'm never going to be able to succeed if I don't do this, or they're going to judge me. And, am I as smart as Einstein? Am I as smart as, a Newton? And there was just this point of failure. And, and this is just a lesson despite whatever your religious beliefs are, but I will say this, it's, the rabbi in the show, he's like, listen, whenever you meet God, it's not going to be, why weren't you as smart as, Isaac Newton? Why weren't you as smart as, Albert Einstein? He's going to say, why didn't you become the best Sheldon you could have been? And I was sitting on the couch with my family, and we were eating dinner, watching this television show, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm getting goosebumps right now, because that's exactly how it should be. That's the exact mindset we should have in life. It's not, can I be, as good as Stephen King? Can I be as good as Orson Scott Card, if you know who that is, one of my favorite authors, or George Orwell, if you want to go down the rabbit hole of older books. But did I do everything, and did I become the best version of Jonathon Guidry? Did I become the best version of the father that I was supposed to be for my children, the husband I was supposed to be for my wife, the leader I was supposed to be for our business? That's my focus, is becoming the best version of myself, not for just inward success, because that is, to me, I have to constantly remind myself, because I think we all have a little bit of vainglory and pride that we have to fight down, and but I don't want that. That's not the point. The point is, did I become the best version that I could have been for everyone else? And it's not because I'm trying to give every part of me to everybody and then I fail because I was trying to be too many things at once. But for the I kind of put things into categories. Am I the best father that I can be for my children? Because I don't think that I am. I think I can be a whole lot better. I think I can be more patient. I think that I could be more caring. I think that I could be more present. And I think I could be more understanding. That, to me, is one of the hardest things to do, is to examine yourself and say, oh, wait, I've got tons of room of improvement. but not look at it from a negative perspective, because even in saying this to everyone right now, it feels down and it feels like it wants to pull you down. But I can't allow that to be the thing that demotivates me. It's got to be the exact opposite. And this is something that we were just talking about outside the other day, which is how do you look at failure or shortcomings and not let it be the thing that stops you, versus the alternative where I have to force myself to be in this mindset. Failure is just one more way to say, hey, that's not how you do it. I got to do better. Now I know that this didn't work, and I'm going to move on to this, and I'm going to try a new way. But also to just look at it from a mind of positivity. I want to grow. I want to be better. And in my shortcomings, at least I had the opportunity to try. At least I'm given the opportunity to succeed. We're not going to allow failure to be the thing that stops us. That's not an option. It's pick up the pieces, put it back together, and continue moving forward. And are you the best version of yourself? I think that people need to really ask themselves that, because if you're not, why? Why aren't you being the best version of you? That's not setting you up for failure. It's not setting you up in a position of comparison to somebody else. Just look in the mirror and examine yourself. Are you doing the best that you can do? And I ask myself that all the time. It's one of the reasons we started this business, because I know that we could do so much more good for people, and we have stories that we want to tell, not just because they're entertaining, but because we believe that they can impact the minds of children in a very positive way, and be very thought-provoking, and that's just one way to be the best version of you. Your version is definitely not my version, and my version's definitely not your version. And that's the beautiful thing about not being compared to someone else, because you're just judging yourself according to you. Who are you going to be tomorrow? I want the version of me, whether it's 10 years from now or 20 years from now, and people will say, oh, my hero in life is, and they'll name someone, from way back when, who has done something fantastic, and that's their hero. That's who they aspire to be. I want my hero to be, me and the future me, because I set out and I did the things that I said I was going to do, and I provided for my family in a way that changed their lives. We built a business that, bootstrapped this thing together, and built a business that really inspires children and inspires teachers and parents to be able to just be better versions of themselves, to think more deeply. That's me bettering myself. What are you doing? What are you going to do that betters yourself? I'll tell you this. I remember years ago, I was working in the oil and gas industry for, a few years, 5 years at the time, maybe 4 years at the time. And I transitioned in my career and started working for a company in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And a lot of things were happening very quickly. I was working with some really motivated people, especially on the management side, and I built some fantastic relationships with those people. I wanted to better myself because it was so motivating seeing so much going on that management side, that I was like, man, I got to get there. But the competition was, in my mind at that time, the competition was fierce. Everyone had military background experience and college educations, and I didn't have my college education at the time, and until this day, they had said, hey, that's not what was needed. But I put myself through school and was working a job that, we were doing 6 to 9 months out of the year. We were away from home, traveling all over, the South, Gulf Coast region. We did a lot of work in California, and but we did a lot of traveling, and I put myself through school, doing 100 plus hours on, shift work, and would go back to the hotel, and my colleagues would be out having fun, but I quit joining. I wasn't there for that, none of that. I couldn't be there for none of that. I was in the room, and I was studying, business metrics, and I was learning to do balancing sheets, and I was working on management and leadership practices and organizational behavior methods. I was putting myself through all of that because I was driven to be able to succeed, and it paid off, because I ended up excelling on the management side, and not everybody's the same. I understand that, but it was a lot of hard work, and it took a lot of time away from, entertainment. It took a lot of time away from my family. I remember so many times, especially when I would be coming home from being gone for a really long time, school didn't stop. I would come home, and I still had, assignments that were due, and deadlines to meet, projects that we were working on for group management activities, and it was right back into the home office from being gone, and that was a huge sacrifice, and it paid huge dividends for me, because it wasn't about having the degree and graduating. That was a beautiful experience, but it was about the mindset, the shift in my brain from what I thought was a metric of success to becoming self-motivated and climbing up and you can look it up yourself. I believe it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but it's about having your internal needs met. And this is from a business perspective or a psychological perspective, but internally I looked at it myself saying, and I didn't realize it at the time until, it was in all hindsight, but it's as those needs were being met, and we were excelling, and we were growing, and we were just doing things because we were very motivated. Self-motivation, it's so powerful. It will drive you to be the best version of yourself if you allow it. I wasn't comparing myself to anybody else anymore because I didn't care about that anymore. I didn't want to be as good as, whoever the next person was that was doing what I wanted to do. I just wanted to be the best version of myself for me, for my family. And I think if you can get to that point to where you're saying, hey, you know what? Today's the day. I'm strapping my boots on, and I'm not accepting no as an answer. We are going to be the best version of whoever you are. You're going to be the best version of yourself. I think that's powerful. And I think that, like I said in the beginning, if that's the type of person you are, and you're in the author industry and you're a creative, go to our website, send us an email, send us what you're working on. We'd like to review it. And we are looking to surround ourselves by self-motivated people who will look to drive themselves, but look to drive also the people around them, because you can't help but to just push people into that realm of creativity, into that realm of ambition. If you're there, the people around you are going to be there too. And that's exactly what we want. We want the people that read our books. We want them to be able to be so excited to read to these children that they can't wait to get the story out. And the children in turn, they're going to be excited. They're going to be ambitious, and they're going to want to excel in life, and they're going to want to be the best versions of themselves, because that's what we're doing. That's what we work on at home. We're constantly trying to teach our children, who I am driven mad up the wall sometimes by my kids, because It's a madhouse. I've got 3 kids, and they're all, currently one is 11. I've got a 4-year-old and I've got a 2-year-old at the time. So I can tell you, there's never a quiet moment. It's not quiet hardly ever until the kids are taking a nap, and even then, they're barely quiet even when they're napping. So it's a madhouse all the time. There's always something going on. There's always something. If the kids are quiet, be very suspicious. If you're in our house, be very suspicious. I want to be able to give them the knowledge that I learned. I want them to have that knowledge 15 years before I learned it. That way, by the time they're my age, they're already doing something way better than I could have ever done. That's the beautiful thing about being a parent. We all learn things from our parents, and then we're like, you know what, that was fantastic. I'm going to teach my kids that as soon as I can. And I think that, unfortunately, I'm realizing that by the time you almost figure out how to be a great parent, they're probably old enough to live on their own. So I hope that we do it right. We definitely, honestly, if you love your kids and you're giving them, all the support that they need, which is a lot. My kids are very needy, but all that to say, if you're providing for your kids, if you're doing everything in your power to be there for them, then you're doing the best you can do. You are not just the best you can do. That's the wrong way to say it. If you're providing for your kids and you're giving them a home, you're giving them shelter, you're giving them nurture and love and support, you are a superhero. You are a superhero. But there's a lot of parents out there that beat themselves up because they think that they're not good enough. They think that they're not good enough, but you are. You are good enough. If you're out there fighting tooth and nail to give your kids the life that they deserve, then, like I said, you've already won. Those kids will literally go to bat for you. They love you. They need you, and it's unconditional. It is so unconditional. This is episode 3 of Within the Glasswood Forest. We've got many, many more episodes to come out. I don't know what the schedule is going to be at this time. It could be every couple of weeks. Right now, it's been about every 2 weeks. It could be once a month, for that matter. We have a lot going on, so the purpose of the podcast is going to, like I said, be to give people an update on what's going on with the things we have in the works with the business. It's going to also be just life lessons, things that I think are important, things that we think are important, because I bounce ideas off of our team a lot, and there's just certain things that are so worth sharing, and we've seen some of the responses from the people that are commenting on our post, so it's worth talking about. And I think that there's a lot of negativity out there. So if we can bring in some positivity and just be one more source of that positivity, that's exactly what we're going to do. But we want to remind people that they're not alone. I am by no means acclaimed to be the best at this. I don't even know how to do this hardly, but I will say I've made plenty of mistakes that are worth sharing. I think that's important. I think it's important for us to share the wins, but also to share the losses. It's always fascinating when you find out about some new creation or some new invention or some new product or technology, and everyone's so amazed. They're like, "Wow, look at what they've done! This is such a drastic change. This is going to revolutionize everything. Everything else is going to be obsolete." But then, what's more impressive than the final product, for me at least, and I think a lot of people think this way. It's always one thing to be like, hey, here's the final product, look at what we've created, versus this other side of the story, which is, Here's all of the struggles, the failures, the days, the many, many nights, the blood, the sweat, the tears that it took for us to accomplish what we've created. That is the most motivating thing you can possibly learn. I wish for every major creation, every success story that's out there, that someone, from rags to riches, or what was the struggles before? What were the heartaches? What were the pain points that you were working at, trying to figure out? I think if more people shared those insights, which there are a lot of people out there doing it, and for the ones that are doing it, thank you. That's what everyone else is feeding on. It's not just the final product. It's, hey, internally, I've got this idea and I'm passionate about it, but it's not where I envision it to be, so clearly it must not be good enough. Clearly I can't work on it. But then you see someone else that was in a very similar situation, working on something for years and years and years, crafting it, and they finally had a breakthrough, and what they ended up producing revolutionized the world. It changed everything. I say all that to say, we're going to be bringing a lot more of that content to this podcast as well. But more importantly, I want them to be able to share all of those lessons learned, all of the trial and errors, and all of the many, many failures, the days that they said, hey, I'm just going to give up. I want them to be able to share that, because I think it's necessary for the people that are out there right now, or whatever they're working on, to be able to know that, oh yeah, I'm not alone in this. I'm not the only one who's struggled. I'm not the only one who's experienced, challenges in developing or creating or having these ideas come to fruition. You're not alone. You're on the brink of a breakthrough. You just got to keep moving forward. And I think that's probably a good spot to stop this one. So, we hope you have enjoyed listening to this week's episode, and looking forward to having you join us on the next one. So, thank you.